Okay, so we just finished the little sunflower. It's a garden stake. There we go. What I would like to do is show you something that's long and narrow, preferably not a snake, because I've seen 100,000 snakes. I'm going to use clay that is slightly dry, slightly hardened, and we're going to see if we can do this. So the first thing I need to do is I need to make the form. What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave him thicker here in the middle because I'm going to cut his legs out of his body. So you're going to see this. I've already wedged my clay. I demonstrated this in class. I've also demonstrated it on earlier videos, but I'm basically taking my clay and dropping it on all sides pretty firmly, and I'm rotating my clay around to take care of everything. So that's one thing that you're going to have to be very thoughtful of, and make sure that you wedge your clay well. You're going to want to wedge for about 2 minutes. I have already wedged this clay, so I want to just kind of get going. So the first thing I'm going to do is my clay is a little bit drier. It's been sitting out for a little while. And we started with one idea and the idea didn't work out. And so I'm using clay that is starting, that we re-wedged. So that's how I know that I've wedged it well. I'm going to keep this guy a little bit smaller because the clay might not be big enough for this, but I want to have enough room to pull out the legs and enough room to kind of pull out a big long curvy tail. If the hands are really warm, you're going to dry the clay out faster. And so my clay is drying. It is cracking in places. I am not rushing to water right now. In order to get those cracks to heal up, I'm actually using my fingers and I'm burnishing the clay. I am putting it back together again. And I'm not doing that real slow. I'm actually rubbing my fingers across it pretty quickly. So all those cracks that are happening there, burnishing pretty quickly. And in order to get the tail a little bit longer and a little bit narrower, I'm kind of using my fingers to kind of stretch the clay. I'm not pinching it. I'm kind of pulling it from here and bringing it down into a little curvy tail. Now, I need to get in here and start working on the legs because the legs are going to be tricky because my clay is a little bit dry. Cutting from here, and I'm going to cut the clay in here. I'm going to have to be careful because I want to leave enough space here for my little lizard's body. I'm going to cut the clay here. So that's going to be his front leg. I'm going to cut the clay here. So I've left enough room for his head. I have a leg, and then I'm going to do the things back here for the back leg. And for the back leg. My husband is talking to me in the background. He found my eye drops, probably down in the pocket of my pants because he's working on laundry today because I've done what your parents probably do where I freaked out on everybody in the house for not doing work and they're all jumping in and doing work. So there's my front leg, my front leg. Now, some of you are going to run into a pickle where you're accidentally going to pull off a leg. So, whoops, I pulled off a leg. Not when it happens, or not if it happens, but when something like that happens, it's not the end of the world. I don't have to smash my lizard into a million pieces and throw him across the room and run from the room screaming and crying. His tail has really gotten insanely long. I don't know if I like this or not, but this little bit of extra clay that I cut off, I'm going to go ahead and give him a ridge down his back with it. I could take some of this extra clay that I've smashed onto his tail, and I could put that one on there too. A little bit of wiggle, a little bit of slip and score. I've not slipped and scored this project yet, so if this is the first video that you've watched, you haven't watched any of the other videos because you're like, that lizard is what I want to do. Slipping and scoring is roughing up the edge of your clay, and scoring is roughing up the edge of your clay. Slipping is adding the clay glue to it, clay glue being the water. So I accidentally, or on purpose, broke his leg off because I want to show you how to reattach. So I have a little section there. I'm going to score that up nice. I'm going to score his leg up nice. Add a little bit of clay glue. Add a little bit of clay glue. And I'm going to reattach. I want to round out his legs. And if you've ever looked at lizards, if you haven't, I'm sad for you. And you probably should go back and look at a lizard before you watch this. So his legs have gotten really kind of thick there, and when they sit on the table, they're flat against the table. So I'm undercutting his leg to make it look more round, and their upper leg muscles are a little bit thicker. Their bottom leg muscles are a little bit skinnier, and just because I really kind of dig little pads on the ends of their feet, it's kind of happening here. I'm going to kind of cut away a little bit there, cut away a little bit there, and I'm going to kind of squish these in here so that he's got little pads. Maybe I'm going to give him more of a bend because his leg looks a little shorter than I want it to be. His tail's really, really, really thick, like right there against his body. So I'm going to undercut this. And what the undercutting does is it just kind of lifts him off the table. It makes him round instead of flat on one side. Undercut him on this side. Also gives me a little bit more clay to play with. So all that cute little stuff that I did with his tail earlier, totally worthless because I'm messing around with it, and he's going to have one heck of a fabulously long tail. Now, if his tail falls off, I'm going to reattach it just like I reattached his leg. His body has gotten really, really, really rough on this bottom side. So I'm going to actually take the edge of the spoon and I'm just going to kind of smooth that. Make sure his arms and legs are well stuck on there. And his tail, if I leave it straight, it's more likely to break. The tip of it was too dry and just kind of cracked off. So I'm going to give him a little bit of curve there. I'm going to go ahead and take care of this leg. Somewhere, I like this idea that they have this ridge that kind of goes all the way down their body. So like their spine. I don't know if that's really the case. And I like to give their bodies a little bit of a curve. Why do I do this? I don't know. Gives him a little bit of movement. Makes him look like he's crawling up my wall. And if I can freak my mother out by him crawling up the wall, that is a win-win in my book. My mother's not a very outdoorsy person. I'm going to undercut the side. I'm going to smooth out his leg here. Try to give a little knob at the end so that I can go back and I can divide that up into little toes. So this got really skinny. I kind of folded it back in on itself. It's not always a good idea. Cutting with a fork is not a good idea either. Family's walking through the house and talking in the background because why would I do this at school? It's kind of absurd. I'm going to do the front legs. He almost looks like a, I don't know, like a Simpsons. I'm going to give him crazy little face, and I'm going to undercut the face. Undercut the face. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video for a minute so that I'm going to keep kind of sculpting these. And I'm going to keep sculpting the head, I think. They're making more and more noise. So I had a toothpick earlier, and that was doing a much better job cutting this. But I'm going to try a little bit of a spoon. There we go. And that totally did not work. So I'm actually going to do something different with his front paws. I think I'm just going to give him squish toes like that. Squish. Squish toe, squish toe. And in order to make him hangable, you can take your stick, press him in, give him a little bit of shake. And so that's going to give me a little spot on him that I can hammer a nail into the wall and hang him on the nail. What you're going to have to do is you're going to have to make sure your name or your initials are on him somewhere, or on your creation somewhere. But you can go in and carve in details for their eyes. I can take a pencil and give him a smile, or give him a face. Looks like he's grimacing on one side. I can give him things that look more like wrists. And so there he is. He's a little wonky. I'm going to play around with that poor paw. He looks like he's been mauled, but there we go. And once you get him glazed up, it looks kind of wicked sweet. This clay is a different kind of clay. That's why it's orange on the bottom. But that's essentially him.